weird.
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Just let me know.
Think they-
Anybody? Bueller?
Yep. It's up.
Bueller, it's on. Better now. All right. So I'm gonna restart that. We got Easy E today.
Hey!
We're just gonna restart. Welcome to the Self Evident Podcast. You got Mike. You got Easy E sitting in second chair. Our boy, our man. He's awesome. Drinking water, embracing masculinity. Do not forget, you can get t-shirts at Braden Sorbo's website. Is it? I can't remember. BradenSorbo.com? Is
Yeah.
that what it is? BradenSorbo.com. Go out, get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself some merch. If you don't feel like that type of merch, let's see if she's on top of it.
Ooh.
Get yourself some self-evident merch. Go out. Oh, she's on top of it. She's going. There we go.
Ah,
There we go. Get yourself a t-shirt. Help support self-evident. Help us get where we're going. Man, we got more conventions. I got another highlight convention video coming out for you guys real soon. Be sure to become a torchbearer if you have not. If you want to be active in this whole fight, if you want to be a part of this, if you want to be part of the family, go out, become a torchbearer. Go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Start today. Become a
yeah.
monthly sponsor, man. We want you to be a part of this fight. Every dollar helps us get where we're going. So
Yep. And Mike, you're wearing one of our new shirts
I
too.
am.
Ooh.
Wow, free
I
the
am.
speech.
Look at that.
It's
Isn't
beautiful.
that great? And it's got stuff on the back, but I don't feel like turning around. So that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be
All
a little
right.
weird.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it real fast. So I was actually looking up stuff to do this morning because last night I was like, man, what do we cover? What do we cover? And we have some awesome suggestions that got thrown out to us. I was like, I want to cover those, but I want to cover them with Massey. And I didn't even have the thought of putting you in second chair until
Yeah.
a half hour ago. Um, and so this morning, I'm just going through all the news stories. And what I notice keeps popping up all the time is gender stuff. It's transgender
everywhere.
stuff, gender stuff. It's everywhere. We are being bombarded with it. Now, usually self-evident goes, okay, we're getting bombarded with it. Let's not worry about it then. Let's do something else that people aren't getting hit over the head. I figured I was going to do a cross section of some news stories and we're going to talk about this. And I want you guys to get involved. I want you guys talking, letting me know what you think, what you're noticing. Because here's the deal. Do you remember, what was it, 2 years ago during the summer of love, part
Yeah.
two, part two,
Dude.
uh, all we heard about was BLM, racism,
Oh yeah.
all of that, Antifa, Chaz, Chop, whatever. You notice all you hear about now is gender stuff and pride stuff.
Yeah.
The narrative. And this is something I want us to pay attention to is what is the narrative that's being shoved down your throats? And I will tell you, this is not going to last forever. There will be this push, there will be this move, and if conservatives stand staunchly, it will die away.
Oh yeah.
And then something else will kick.
There's already a really big pushback. Like when we say it's everywhere, like this whole genderism, transgenderism, whatever, it is everywhere. It's in textbooks, it's in colleges, it's in schools, it's in children's books, it's in children's TV shows now.
Right.
Sesame Street is doing it. Like the show that's been going on forever and ever and ever, and other shows too. It's their agenda is to not only influence the generation now, but also to get them to believe in it and to continue to influence it later down the line.
Right. And it's you've got to fight this battle at every step of the way because it's very easy for us to get complacent. It's very easy for us to decide, well, I'm just not going to worry about that because I've got a lot going on. And I understand it because it can be overwhelming. But you pick your lane of fighting. You pick your lane of standing up, right? And one of the things that I want to do with these news stories is, hey, maybe one of these is your lane where you can get involved and fight. And we're going to get right into this. I think this one man. So California might suppress free speech again.
Again.
And again and again and again and again, because of course California is some know it. California bill is seeking to criminalize criticizing teachers for teaching gender ideology. So SB 596 would make subjecting school employees to threats or harassment for reasons related to their official duties while they are away from a school site or after hours a misdemeanor. This includes social media. So, how quickly before you post your child's gender ideology assignment, you're charged for harassment? We
Yeah.
already watched parents who were standing up to school boards getting profiled by the FBI. Well, there is this process that goes on that if you speak up, there's an issue here.
Yeah. I saw this interview with there's this woman who escaped um, North Korea at a young age, and she made it into the states. And one thing that she remembered, I forget who was doing the interview, but one thing that she was kind of pressing was the fact that they couldn't say anything. Like
Right.
they had to not keep to themselves, but they couldn't joke around like we do. And somebody on the podcast or on the interview ended up like making fun of her in a teasing way, and she was like, "Whoa, I've never had that happen to me. People can't make fun of each other in a country like North Korea. Now people are trying to do this here in California."
Exactly. If you can control the language, you control people.
Yeah.
This is exact this this bill runs so afoul of the First Amendment. And I'm not even being like Patriot 1776
Yeah.
history guy. I'm being flat out realist in saying now government is telling you you're not allowed to criticize a school employee, because if social media posts and that kind of thing are included in every, but it's just talking about fear and harassment. Let me ask you a question. How easily would it be if I say, Elijah, how dare you teach my kid this stuff?
Yeah.
How easily would you be able to go, well, that's harassment. That's, you're harassing me. I'm in fear for my life. Mm. Now there's no truth to it, but you could say, I'm in fear for my life. I don't know what you're going to do. You may
Right.
hurt me. You're wicked, evil, right-wing MAGA domestic terrorists, right? That's an issue, because now it's the whole, I have the right to not be offended.
Yeah. And that's such there's nowhere in the Constitution that ever talks about that. I mean, you're way more well versed in the Constitution. Massey is way more well versed in Scripture, but there's nowhere that ever speaks that if you're offended, you have a right to be offended.
Right.
You have a right to make sure that everybody else knows you're offended, and make sure that that person who made you offended now has to suffer the consequences of that. That's such a self entitlement. That's so like
Isn't it?
it's
It's
so
just
obnoxious
obnoxious.
to me, dude. I hate. Okay, I hate the idea of having an ego. I'm not gonna say I'm a humble person. Like I'm not gonna say I'm like the most humble person. I know I can be extremely self-centered and whatever, self-righteous, or like just looking at myself more than other people. I know I can be like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I'm clearly in the wrong, I admit it 100%. Even if I don't feel right, even if I 100% feel like I'm being cheated and I know I'm in the wrong, I'll still back off because I know I'm not right. And then the fact that people are just continuing to push this on people and just continuing to do that,
Yeah.
it frustrates me to no end.
It's frustrating to watch because there's such force behind it. Ice T, can you throw up Victoria's comment? I think this is really good, and this points to a larger topic on this whole thing. So she says that teaching is harassment, sexual harassment of a child. Absolutely. And I've made this point before. Why are we trying to sexualize children?
Yeah.
Now, there's a report that just came out that the UN is saying that we should decriminalize sexual contact with those who are underage. It's getting reported everywhere. The UN comes out with this, right? And there's a bevy of articles you can look to in universities, professors, all this idea of what we would call normalization. But here's my biggest issue is you're you're claiming the children as your own.
Yeah.
You're telling the parents now you're not fit to determine what's good or bad for your child. We do that.
Right. Not only that, what about all the real predators? People out there who are like hunting these kids down. And not only that, but want to do really bad things. Not even the current alphabet community agenda thing.
No.
People who genuinely want evil things from these kids. What about that?
I think this is where the conservative sphere really has to draw their lines. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is you end up blurring the lines, and it's frustrating to watch because you actually diminish your argument. Here's what I'm trying to say. When they go after the LGBTQ community and say you're you're trying to corrupt our kids. I get it. I understand what you're saying, but we've got to be careful because there's a big segment of the LGBTQ community that's not necessarily their interest.
Yeah.
Their interest is their own rights. And their interest may be in, hey, I never felt accepted. I never felt um, comfortable. And I want to make sure kids who are like me are afforded more opportunities than I was. There's a noble motive in that. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying all of them have a noble motive, but let's give a pause on it and recognize there are different motives. You're pointing out nefarious, wicked, evil motive. There's also, I think, misguided motive.
Yeah.
And we've got to be careful to kind of parse out. Now, here's where the problem comes in when the noble, quote unquote, motive gets pushed forward and then it becomes force against the parents. And here's what I'm talking about. The next one, this was the one that really, I heard about this, what was it, yesterday or the day before. And this one really gets me. And I don't know how long we're going to spend on it. We may spend the rest of the time. Who knows? So Washington State wants to have more right to your kids than you. You may think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. Let me read this. Uh, Governor Jay Inslee has a bill on his desk which would allow youth shelters and host homes to conceal from parents the whereabouts of runaway children who request or receive protected healthcare services, including abortions, puberty blockers, and cross sex hormones. Imagine this. Your kid runs away. Your kid's 15, confused, runs away because you're not willing to go out and buy $10,000 of hormone treatments. So your kid in Washington State decides, well, nuts to this, I'm running away, especially now that they know that the state will give it to them. So they go to a shelter. The shelter will get you plugged in. You, as a 15-year-old, get you plugged into whatever service you want and conceal your presence there from your parents. So now your parents only know that you've run away. They have no clue where you are. They have no clue what's going on. They have no clue who you're with. The state will let Child Protective Services know, but they won't let you know. That is sick.
I feel like it makes me think about like what they do with witness protection. They like completely pull people away from their family. That's willingly though. That's like somebody's after me. But that's such an extreme to put upon a either prepubescent child or a child currently going through puberty, like you said, completely confused. And I mean, I think back to the time when I was 15 and when I was a teenager, which was not that long ago. I didn't know what I wanted in the world. I didn't know what I want at all. And then Christ came into my life and he completely flipped me on my head. But if it weren't for that, if it weren't for people that I met, I would have been completely lost. And I would have been in a very similar situation that a lot of these kids are. I mean, this whole thing, it's funny because when I woke up this morning to your email that you sent because he emails us all the podcast maps that we don't read. Um,
It's a
and
contagion.
and I see the title, and this is pretty near and dear to my heart. Everything transgenderism, because I've dealt with it in the past in my life, and I'm also dealing with it in my family right now. I won't get too into it, but part of my family struggles with this ideology, and um, whether it's accepting it or people who aren't accepting it and wanting to go live your own life. So seeing the fact that not only are people not getting their questions answered, not only are they not being led to a greater understanding, but they're also just being fed these drugs that haven't been tested for a long period of time.
And have not been tested on children
Right.
over the long course.
Right. I mean, like, I it's so crazy how we're just coming out with random new miracle drugs that can cure everything, and it's never been tested before, but you should take it right now, because if you take it right now, it'll cure all of your problems.
Right.
And that goes way beyond transgenderism and everything, but
I think to your point, Massey showed me an Instagram video that I couldn't figure out how to get it off of Instagram to put it up.
yeah.
But it was this girl who, when she was younger, her parents, and obviously she must have had some type of confusion, although there are parents out there that decide my kid is going to be transgender. And if you want to watch really messed up
Oh,
family
yeah.
dynamics, look at the Jazz Jennings.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
Mhm.
It is disgusting what this mom is saying in support and enforcement of transgender
Yeah.
surgery on her son, now daughter.
Daughter. Yeah.
It- go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the frustrating part about that is that not only goes into more of the whole thing that we're talking about right now, but that also goes into the fact that, like, the father has had no say in this. The
Yeah.
father is just everything. All of his wishes have just gone out the door because she's the mother and she's the one that controls everything.
And we watched that. There was a case in Texas where the father lost rights to the son
Yeah.
because the mom, who is a psychologist, felt that the son wanted to be a girl and the father wasn't supporting that. And so the state, which the father was fighting this at every turn,
Yeah.
the state stepped in.
Maybe that's the case I was
and-
thinking about.
Yeah, I don't know about Jazz's father.
Yeah.
Ice-T, you had something? No, you good? Okay. Um, uh,
Forgot.
this Instagram video,
Yeah.
this girl was talking about all of the physical side effects of the hormone treatment and the surgeries and all of that. And this is something we don't talk about, is so especially if, let's say you're a guy who has decided, I want to be a girl. So you're going to crush testosterone, you're going to raise estrogen.
Right.
Estrogen is very much linked with depression, with loss of bone density, with cancer, with all kinds of side effects. And now we're pumping 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, whatever age. I mean, we're 5 years old.
Yeah.
We're pumping them full of a hormone that their body is not ready to receive
Right.
in massive amounts. And then we wonder why there's a bunch of side effects.
Yeah.
This is total destruction of a child. And it's a very scary thing because we're not stopping on the ethical sense and saying, okay, we need to pause on this. Let's look at the damage we're doing to these children who can't vote, who can't drive a car, who can't drink, who can't smoke, who can't get into the military, who aren't supposed to be married, who aren't actually supposed to consent to sex. If we're looking at 17 and under, they can't do any of that stuff outside of driving.
Yeah.
But you can make life altering permanent decisions with your body through massive medical intervention. And isn't it funny that the medical intervention is so intense in order to align the mind with the body?
Yeah.
And this is the only time that our psychological treatment aligns the mind with the body. What I mean by that is there are people who have a disorder who want to lose a limb. We don't cut off the limb to align the mind with the body unless you have a sick psychological professional,
Right.
quote unquote professional. No, we go, okay, there's an issue here. There's something that we need to improve and fix in the mind because the mind is not properly aligned.
Yeah, and a lot of TV shows like nowadays with like the whole with all of that, it really influences it in super subtle ways because there are characters that people idolize and there are characters that have like bionic limbs or are like transgender or was like born a male and then through some freak accident became a female, and it's like there are characters that people idolize and they want to be just like these characters, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, especially against a younger audience who is already confused, and then you introduce this free, it's like giving a coke addict a way to coke.
Yeah.
Again, of course they're going to go to it because here, this is someone you want to be like, right? And now here's the way to be like him. We promise you'll be like them, whatever they are. Like of course the younger generation is going to bite.
And this Instagram video that I was telling you about,
Yeah.
the person on it said the doctors told my parents you can either go along with this or your child will die by suicide. And this person said that's not a medical professional, that's a political activist.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. How dare you in such a tumultuous, confusing time, emotional time for a family, you as a medical professional say, well, if you don't do this to your kid's going to commit suicide.
Was this a video of like a girl who already went through the treatment
Yeah.
and she was sitting in her car and like
No,
was-
this, which the more of those are coming out, and I'm telling you, support those videos.
Yeah.
Support these people who are in the transition movement, the people who are on the other side of it and they're regretting it.
it's hard for them, man.
Support them. It is so hard for them, and they're getting attacked because they're going against the narrative.
I remember we talked about this a little bit last year when we went to Texas, but one thing that we don't think about is that we as sinners, we have Christ to bear our sins for us. But people who take these drugs, they have to wear their sins. It is a permanent part of their body that they have to go through every single day of the rest of their life, reaping these consequences. And it is extremely difficult to live like that.
Yeah. It and that's when we look at this whole thing and we're being blasted, it's being blasted into our brains. I think having compassion and understanding for those who are going through it, even if they have divisive intent through all of it, the Christian response should have some level of compassion of this is the DSM-5, the psychological manual handed out to psychologists called it a disorder. So you can tell me it's medical misinformation that I'm giving right now, which I'm not. If I refer to the DSM-5, it's considered a disorder.
Yeah.
And boy, it seems to line up with what a disorder would happen to be.
Yeah. And it's so easy for us to as Christians or just as people with differing beliefs to them, it's so easy for us to be like, no, you're wrong. You need to believe this. And to just lash out like that. Like I catch myself feeling those feelings of just wanting to say, no, you're completely wrong in this. This is, and just like criticize and correct and win the
Yeah.
argument. And you hear this all the time, but you're not supposed to win the argument, you're supposed to win the soul. And that's
Right.
we do that by loving on them, by showing them. What you said about the people who what was it, you said that they were like trying to, they're seeking understanding, or they don't have a malicious intent, they have a moral,
Misguided,
misguided, yeah.
moral motive.
That is where we go to show them love, and we go to
Right.
try to show them understanding, because those are the people who are going to listen. They're open in seeking information, they are seeking love, because they haven't accepted or received any love, and that's why they're in confusion.
Yeah.
Especially the kids who are already in confusion before they even start down this whole road. We can't just sit by and criticize and try to correct everyone with a bitterness towards them.
Gotta love on them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and love with truth, right? And so Massey
Yeah.
and I have talked about this. Of we're very adamant of we don't want to do the gotcha type stuff. We
Yeah.
don't want to do the person does a personal video and says something, and so we nail them, and we make fun of them, and we embarrass their point. It doesn't mean we won't disagree with a person's point and maybe bring that up, but our position isn't to ridicule and embarrass people.
Right.
Like you guys are saying, it's to love somebody and to still give truth. Now, where my where my spear gets raised is when legislation is on the
Yes.
desk
Yeah.
of a governor saying parents will no longer be the first priority in letting them know where their child is. That's sick to me.
Yeah.
That goes from the realm of misguided noble motive into malicious, because what it says is the parent can't be trusted with their child, the state is going to be
Yeah.
better trusted.
And it's unbiblical too. Like
Totally
it completely throws off the entire family dynamic structure of hierarchy. For lack of a better term, I guess.
Fit higher man, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Spheres of this is what we would call spheres of government or stages of government. So there's
Right.
the family government, there's the social government or the community government, there's the civil government.
Like the
God's
onion.
government.
Right. And it
Yeah, it's kind of like an onion.
it throws off the family government.
Yeah.
The entire order of the family, the husband, then the wife, then the kids. The husband and the wife are supposed to have authority over the kids, but now you're introducing you're completely cutting off half of that spectrum.
Do you just hit it for me? You've got the feminist movement that really kicks up. Now, there was a feminist movement back even in the late 1800s, right?
Right.
But for lack of a better position, during the 60s, the feminist movement really took it on a new wave of the father's role in the family versus the mother's role.
Right.
Do you notice how the father's role as head of the household got cut, right? It gets separated out. And we watch it even in these conversations about, well, the mother is naturally top priority in relationship with the children if there's any type of tension between mother and father.
Yeah.
We watched it in Texas with that son that the mother feels needs to be transitioned.
Yeah.
So you separate out the father. Now, I think most of the mothers thought, well, that's fine. That's not a big deal because I love my kids and my husband is whatever. But now the mother is being snipped off the relationship between the mother and the children, which was the whole goal in the end anyways, was separate the parents out from the children. The state becomes the parents. Then the children become raised by the state. Then the state becomes all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful.
Mm-hmm.
A state will consolidate its power every single time.
Yeah.
If you give it the leniency, it will do it. I do want to point out Destiny's comment. She says, our brains aren't even fully developed until our 20s. I don't think children should be able to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I was pointing out earlier is if we're not going to allow them to make certain decisions, why is it all of a sudden why are we allowing them to then come out and say, well, I don't feel like I should. I need gender affirming care. And then the government rushes in and says, yeah, yeah, gender affirming care,
Yeah.
and then walks away and, and nothing else happens.
Yeah.
It's like the state goes, okay, there you go. Have your hormones. See ya.
It makes me think of like when a kid asks for candy, when the kid asks his dad for candy and the dad says no, and then he goes running to mom asking for it, and then mom says yes.
Right.
Except in this case, mom and dad are both saying no, and then the kid has another source to run to.
Right. I want you to introduce the next topic. I had a newspaper article that I want to cover after this.
So in New Zealand, there is a power lifter. Where is his name?
I don't know if I even put it in here. Dan something.
Dale
Either way,
Shepherd.
or Dale. Yeah,
Dale
Shepherd.
Shepherds. Dale Shepherds was dubbed New Zealand's strongest man. Applied last week to complete. He applied last week to compete in a women's powerlifting competition.
So this guy is like legit competitor.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you get like world record holder in the USPLF N723 league, right? So
Something like that.
because you could hold a world record in a league that has 5 people. I've got the world record in the Mike's powerlifting league. But it sounds like this guy's pretty legit in what he's done. And he's trying to point out the absurdity of allowing men to compete in women's competition. And this is kind of a dust up in the powerlifting community. And this guy said, I'll apply in the women's
Yeah.
to prove a point. Well, what the league did was they made last minute changes. So at first, the rules deferred greatly to entrants' gender self-identification, but the new rules specified that male transsexuals must have declared that her gender identity is female. The declaration cannot be changed for sporting purposes for a minimum of 4 years. Personally, I say, Dale, go for it. Just wreck the league for the next 4 years. Make them eat it. Set every record possible, and then in the end of 4 years, bow out and watch them squirm as they realize a woman with a beard just absolutely trampled everybody
Dude,
with records that will never be broken.
that's like
Do it. So additionally, per the new rules, male transsexuals must have undergone hormone treatment if medically indicated for at least 12 months prior to her first competition. I'm sure you could get around that because you could argue, well, my medical records are secret. They're confidential. You're not allowed to look at those.
Oh, yeah.
You have to take it on my
and
word.
especially a lot of bodybuilders take a lot of supplements.
Oh, yeah.
And
You can make that argument.
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? One supplement
I am
a lot of
hormonally
bodybuilders
changed.
take. A lot of bodybuilders, including women, take a lot of testosterone.
Oh, yeah. We also had a British rapper who was named Zuby. He beat the British women's deadlift record as well as the bench deadlift record or bench record, then joked that the stunt was stunning, strong, and brave. Of course, people were upset
Brave
with Zuby.
and-
I don't understand why. It's brave. And then Avi Silverberg. This is another one I heard about for former head coach for Team Canada powerlifting, temporarily identified as a female on March 25th and demolished the women's record set by a male transsexual, Ann Andres, at the Heroes Classic powerlifting meet in Lethbridge. Silverberg exploited the same gender policy as Andres had, then tested the transsexuals athlete's record with him watching. Bested the transsexuals athlete's record with him watching. So you beat it, and then some coach comes out and says, this is ludicrous. I'm going to nail your record. Not only did the male coach beat Andres' record, cleared it by nearly 100 pounds. Andres had previously lifted 275, which I'm like, that was the record? Bruh. Silverberg casually pressed 370 pounds. Good luck, Andres. Try it.
Oh my gosh.
this and some of you are probably like weightlifting, whatever, who cares? But personal for me,
And for me,
right? We love lifting, all of that. I used to compete in powerlifting. Like the weight classes matter. Your 165s are not going to be able to compete with the super heavyweights.
oh yeah,
I watched guys deadlift 980 pounds. I watched guys squat 900 pounds, right? Legit lifters. The women never came anywhere close to most of the men, right? You'd get a couple of women who are really the top of the top and they could beat, a certain portion of the men.
yeah,
Powerlifting and weightlifting and all of that, I think is such a perfect microcosm for this whole argument. Because the argument is there's no biological difference between men and women, but we have to biologically change men into women and women into men if they
Yeah.
feel like they're a man but a woman, but they're not actually biologically different, but they are when we want to change them.
and to add to that,
Figure it out.
another really great example would be women's sports. I watched this interview of a bunch of feminists, and in the feminist group was a bunch of transgenders, transgender feminists, man, the women, yeah. And they were debating on whether or not it was right to allow transgender women into women's sports. And a lot of them were like saying, yeah, they're women too, like go pride and whatever. And there was one girl who spoke up and was like, absolutely not. The fact that they are still biological men and they have physically more muscle mass, body mass, and more endurance than us women, even a like on the basketball court, they will absolutely dominate, and they have absolutely dominated. Powerlifting is just a
It's
bigger
a perfect
example.
microcosm
yeah.
of it. And let's put it this way: for anybody who says, "Oh, well, they're going under hormone treatment," okay, I'll gladly step into that arena with you. Let's take a 35-year-old male. He's been lifting and training for, say, 15 years. Has built himself to about 210, 215. He's 5'11, strong, muscular guy. You're telling me that 15 years of testosterone flowing, muscle building, biology changing process is going to be completely reversed by 12 months of testosterone reduction,
Yeah.
12 months of estrogen treatment. You're telling me that bone density, that muscle fiber density, that joint and ligament and tendon strength, pure size of the person, all of that is going to be erased and put into a normal category of women within 12 months?
No.
No possible way. You cannot defeat years of natural biological development.
Dude, not even like those weight loss drugs do that.
Right. So Jonathan just said Fallon Fox. And if you don't know this story, this was a UFC fighter, male, who decided wanted to become female and
Yeah.
fight in the women's league, crushing women,
Oh yeah.
like hospital type crushing,
Yeah.
concussions and broken eye sockets and all of that. Dangerous.
That is a very dangerous sport to be in. I have some friends who are into it, and I go to see their fights and their games and whatever, and I go to support them. And even just pinning a guy that's 175 pounds to a guy that's 185 pounds,
It's dangerous.
it completely changes the
Yeah.
game. It unlevels the match. It makes it completely unfair to the guy who's lighter. Like regardless if he's lighter on his feet, if he can swing faster, the heavier
There's-
guy can take bigger punches.
there is a reason that you have weight classes, right? So you get a Conor McGregor who at his height, or if you want to use a Khabib or whatever,
Yeah.
you take a guy who's at his height. Yet if you stack on 30 pounds, you don't need the best fighter in the world, right? Now, getting into grappling and all of that. Maybe boxing is a better analogy, but a Floyd Mayweather is going to have a very tough time with a Mike Tyson
Oh
at
yeah.
his peak. And Floyd Mayweather undefeated. What? 50-0, something like that, 54-0,
Something, yeah.
something like that. Going to have a very tough time with a Mike Tyson purely by weight,
Yeah.
right? And you can say, "Oh, well, it's changing them and so therefore they're level playing field." Isn't it funny that we have to do so much work against the body to force it into a different standard? And then we argue, but they're both the same. If they're both the same, why do you have to do so much work to change it to be like the other one?
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and put Jonathan's comment up. He says, "My father, 68, was on hormone blockers for 2 years due to prostate cancer treatment. He had zero testosterone in his system for 2 years. He is still very much a man." Absolutely.
Boom.
Why? He's 68. Let's say so it would be what? 53 years, 54 years of like full on flow of testosterone. You cannot undo 54 years of testosterone in 2 years.
Yeah.
And this whole conversation, I know, warped into the whole biology thing, but I think it's important because get back to the source of this whole debate. We have legislation, we have laws that are granted a response to red states saying, we're not going to allow this to happen to minors. That's all they're saying. They're not outlawing it for adults. If you're an adult and you want to go through all that, my heart goes out to you, but do what you do.
Yeah.
It's when we start taking kids, like Destiny said, our brains are not fully developed until our mid-20s. I think it's like 25 that the brain is officially fully developed.
I think it's 21 for women, 25 for men.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Don't quote me on that.
So we're going to take a brain that is nowhere near fully developed, that cannot understand full ramifications, full context of issues. And we're going to say, yeah, well, go to it. All the red states are doing is saying, let's just not even have this argument. Let's wait. That's easier because we'll keep a lot of damage from happening to unsuspecting kids who think, oh, it's going to be beautiful and glamorous and awesome, and everybody will be proud of me because I'm stunning and brave because I went through all of this when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
It is a social thing. Okay? Come at me. It's a social thing. But then you have the blue states who, instead of like, no, we're gonna affirm it. No, we just won't tell the parents. And we'll provide it to the kid. And we'll criminalize the parent's speech if they talk back about it.
That's so evil. I mean, you don't have to be an expert to see what's going on. They are making it easier to become a teacher. They are making it so that parents can't teach their kids what they want to teach them. Now they are making it so that parents can't give feedback to the teachers, and they are imprisoning parents, finding them, and giving the kids what they want anyway, just so that they can have this. They are pushing hard for it, and they have set the steps in. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to have a bachelor's. You don't even have to go to college to see this.
Like, no. And all the kid has to do, and this is what really gets me, is say, I think I'm a girl. I think I'm a boy. And the whole system starts down the tracks. And what's happening in schools, you're getting these counselors or these resource officers or whatever you want to call them, who the kid can go to them, having a rough day, mad at their parents, whatever, and say, I think I'm a girl. And the whole system flips against the parents. And all of a sudden, the parents become enemy number one if they don't support the kid. And there are plenty of kids who are emotionally distraught and struggling and having a rough time of it, especially in their relationship with their parents,
Oh,
to
yeah.
where that could seem like a great tool or wedge against your parents. You better go along with what I'm saying or else, you know. And I'm not saying that's the majority of cases, but there's a danger of the whole system coming alongside the kid and deciding that the parents are the enemy without like I don't even say want to say without. It's just you've set yourself against the parents of the kid. The
Yeah.
parents should get the benefit of the doubt. But now we've launched into this whole idea of the right to not be offended, the right to not be frustrated with life, the
Mhm.
right to not question anything. And we've jumped off the cliff and decided that if a kid, a 14, 15, y'all remember when you were 14, 15 years old, it was a confusing, rough, stressful time.
Dude, I thought wearing jeans and a jacket in 90-degree weather in Florida was cool.
Get some help.
I did. I got this magical thing called shorts.
Right. We've decided that we need to jump off the cliff to solve this problem that is natural for youth instead of helping them navigate with sensibility and wisdom and long-term thought. Notice all of this, it's couched in language of we're going to think long term. In reality, it's not. It's instantaneous
Yeah.
because we're trying to avoid the tension or the struggle in order to get to the other side. And we're trying to say, well, let's placate, let's cover over that struggle. Let's help you get out of that struggle. And the side effects, don't worry about that. Right. And Jonathan, yes, absolutely. So research ROGD, rapid onset gender dysphoria, is a social epidemic. Absolutely is. If you look at groups in middle school culture, what you'll find is there's an alarming rate of if one of them is like, I'm transgender, all of a sudden half the group will be. Because guess what you're promoting? Guess what you're promoting? And I see your point. Give me 30 seconds.
Go for it.
You're promoting this to these kids. Stunning, brave, beautiful. You're standing up for yourself. You're becoming more your identity. This will be your identity. You are talking to kids who have no clue what their identity is, and their identity is in their social group. So when somebody in their social group decides, oh, this is cool, or their social group is being inundated with information of this is cool,
Yeah.
guess what they're going to do? Baggy pants were super cool when I was in middle school. Guess what I bought?
Baggy pants.
Baggy pants. What was your point?
I'm 90% sure I've told you this. I've told. Wow, English. Hi.
Speak it.
I've told you about this before. I'm pretty sure. I had a group of friends. I had a group of friends, and we were like pretty sorted out, like equal number to boys and girls in the group. And in this, the girls kind of like would go off and do their own thing. In this group, one of the girls had a mental disorder where she would have tics and random movements or just randomly say something. It was demonic. What you were saying is demonic. But all the other girls in the group wanted her to feel comfortable. So one by one, all these girls started adopting these different tics, these different movements, these different twitches, these different like verbal sayings until everyone in the group had it. All the girls in the group had it. And it became such a problem to where none of them could say a sentence without doing something because they wanted to feel accepted. They all wanted each other to feel accepted because now they were all dealing with this very real problem. Like people, it's not fake. This is all extremely demonic the way that it works.
Mhm.
And it doesn't just latch on to one person. It will continue to take as many people as possible. It will continue to latch on to as many people as it possibly can.
And let's use that as an example. So do we as the adults, let's say we're watching this situation go on. Do we as the adults sit down with those kids and then affirm what's going on? Oh yes, yes, the tics, you have to just embrace it. You have to just keep going with it. It's just part of you, right? Now, some people will say, well, yeah, you have to do that with Tourette's. But if you watch it spread like wildfire, you should have some semblance of intelligence to recognize, okay, is this actually a mental disorder, or in Christian realms, man,
Right.
likely it's demonic. Can I give a caveat to Christians? There are actually mental disorders.
Yeah.
There are biological mental disorders.
And I wasn't saying everything.
no,
everything is demonic. Run for your life.
I just want to point that out because immediately we jump to, and I don't think you're wrong in this case, but we'll jump to something like Tourette's or bipolar disorder, depression,
Schizophrenia, something
and
like
we
that.
see a demon behind every doorknob. There are actually biological happenings in the brain that can cause some of these disorders.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's to cope with something that the psyche just cannot reconcile, suffering, trauma, that kind of, and it creates this issue. It's a whole different conversation. But either way, you as the adult, if you watch this spread like wildfire and you have some level of intelligence, you don't sit down and go, yeah, well, you all must have it. And no, we sit down and we go, okay, why? Let's talk about this. What's going on here? Sarah, 6 months ago, you were talking fine. It was completely normal conversation. And now, Sarah, you can't get through a single sentence without some type of tick or utterance or that kind of thing. Let's talk about that. What do you think? What do you think is happening here? I bet pretty quickly you can work that child to the position where they'll open up and they'll say, yeah, Tiffany has it, and I felt like she needed a friend. Oh, there's a whole different. You don't sit down and go, well, I think you need more ticks. You know, like, and that's what we're doing with the whole gender thing is, oh, well, you're having issues. Let's pile them on more.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to round this out. And I had other news stories, just like the Bud Light thing, you know, it's like,
I was reading that.
yeah, the Bud Light thing, it's funny to me. If you want to boycott, go for it. I don't
drink beer.
Yeah, I'm not a beer fan. I take that back. How do I say this? I used to enjoy the microbrew, like the good craft beer.
Yeah.
And have a beer once in a while. Get off me, people. Once in a while, have a good, tasty craft beer.
Jesus himself party. Get over it.
Well, we're gonna get it. For
yeah.
that one.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
We're
hey.
gonna get it for that one.
Oh yeah.
But I can't do it anymore because I get headaches right away and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. It's like whatever. So Jonathan says I boycotted them on flavor years ago. Exactly. It's like it's not my first pick. But what you're noticing is middle America, conservative America, beer drinking America is going wrong thing to do, Bud Light. And I agree. Know your audience.
Yeah.
Know your audience. I don't think it would be wise for you to do a bunch of Donald Trump supporting advertisements on Vice News or BuzzFeed, rest in pieces, Huffington Post. Know your audience.
Yeah.
I think Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, and the rumors are that the executive, the C-suite, didn't have any clue about this thing, and it got pushed forward through the marketing department, and the C-suite woke up one day and their stock was dropping. I don't know. Could be. Who knows? Either way, when you attach your wagon to something controversial, kind of like Nike did with Colin Kaepernick,
Yeah.
and Nike is now doing with Dylan Mulvaney, you notice the trends in the society, and it's going to fade away. Just like Colin Kaepernick faded away. Dylan Mulvaney is going to fade away. What we have to pay attention to is go ahead and do your boycott. But I'm more concerned about the regulations and the laws that are about to be put forward. The pushes to get this stuff moving forward. Remember, when you move forward, when you take territory, the enemy will not just give up and throw up his hands and walk away. you will actually have to keep pushing forward. And what I mean by that is don't cede ground, but recognize the next battle is coming. Because as you push, your enemy will push harder and harder. The weeping and gnashing of teeth is actually a good sign. It means you're making territory and you're making them unstable. So keep going. Keep going. Jonathan says, newsflash, Andrew Tate is looking at buying BuzzFeed. Musk Part 2.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think even Tate can save BuzzFeed. And so, last thought. You got any last words before we round this one out?
Don't hunker down. Don't start thinking that the end times are coming, so I got to prepare.
Go out and fight.
Yeah.
This,
Be found in the field.
yeah, be the laborer. Go out and fight. If you're in Washington State, don't take this line down. You stand up. You fight. You work. Right? Just like anybody else. They're doing it. They're pushing. We've had some local issues where the other side is pushing back. They're, oh, you guys want this? Well, we'll try and use that against you. Round 2. If you're in a boxing match and you win the first round, you don't sit down and raise your gloves saying, I won. You have round 2.
Yeah.
So go for round 2. It's time to step back up. It's time to say, all right, here we go. Game on, right? And I encourage you, get involved wherever you need to. Wherever you need to. Do what you need to do. Find your path. That's going to be our message, our mission ad nauseum. Find your path. So, Destiny says, we don't just sit until Jesus comes back. We have work to do. Amen to that. Victoria says, keep punching. Exactly. Keep punching. If you got him on the ropes, you don't let him off. You keep swinging. You keep going. Push, 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 push. Right? And expect the punch back.
Yeah.
Par for the course.
Part
All
of
right.
the fun.
Part of the fun. I want to say thank you to Easy E. You
Thank
did
you for
well,
having me.
man.
Thank you.
You killed it.
I hope I didn't get us too
Give-
many angry comments.
Give some
'cause-
love to Easy E. He only had 1 or 2 comments that'll get us sued, but
Yeah.
give him some love.
All of which will be coming out of my pocket.
Absolutely. All right. Do not forget to go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Sign up to be a torchbearer. If you don't feel it's time to do that, get yourself some merch. Get yourself a t-shirt, a hat. Sign up for the Constitution course. You want to know about your rights. You want to know how this system was originally set up. You want to know the bird's eye view of everything. Get the Constitution course today. I'm telling you, you have unlimited access. It will help put things in perspective for you. So until then, guys, in the words of Destiny, have a great weekend, y'all. We love you guys. Have a great day.
See ya.
See y'all. I noticed you